Lieutenant Commander Jake Harrison stood at the main window of the UES Defiant and watched the stars drift by. The ship moved through space like a metal whale swimming through an ocean of black. He had been on deep space missions before, but this one felt different. They were farther from Earth than any human ship had ever gone. The Defiant was humanity's newest exploration vessel. It carried 200 crew members and enough supplies to last 3 years. Their mission was simple: find new worlds and make contact with alien life. So far, they had found empty planets and dead space rocks. Jake was starting to wonder if humans were alone in the universe. "Commander Harrison, to the bridge," came a voice over the ship's speakers. Jake recognized the voice of Captain Alex Rodriguez. Something in the captain's tone made Jake move quickly through the metal hallways. The bridge buzzed with activity when Jake arrived. Officers sat at their stations, fingers dancing over glowing screens. Captain Rodriguez stood in the center, his dark eyes focused on the main display. He was a good captain, calm under pressure and smart enough to listen to his crew. "What do we have, Captain?" Jake asked. "Lisa picked up something interesting," Rodriguez said, nodding toward the communications station. "Show him, Lieutenant." Lisa. Chen looked up from her console. She was young but had the best ears on the ship when it came to picking up signals from space. Her black hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her brown eyes showed excitement. "I caught this transmission about an hour ago," Lisa said. "It's coming from the Kepler 442 system. That's about 1,200 light-years from here." Jake whistled softly. That was incredibly far away. "What kind of signal?" Lisa pressed a button, and the bridge filled with sound. It was unlike anything Jake had ever heard. The voice was musical, like wind chimes in a gentle breeze, but underneath, the beauty was something else: fear. "Help us," the voice said in clear English. "Please, anyone who can hear this message, we need help. Our world is dying. Our people are dying. We do not know how to fight. We have never needed to fight. But they are coming, and we will all be dead soon." The bridge fell silent. Jake felt his skin crawl. The voice continued, sometimes breaking into static, sometimes coming through clearly. "We are the Villani of the world Serenia. We have lived in peace for thousands of years. We make art and study the stars. We have never hurt anyone, but the Devourers have found us. They have already destroyed 3 worlds in our system. They take everything, all life, all plants, everything that grows. They leave only empty rock behind." Jake looked around the bridge. Every face showed the same expression, shock mixed with sympathy. These were people who had joined the space service to explore and help others. Now someone was asking for exactly that kind of help. "There are so many of them," the alien voice went on. "Their ships block out our sun. We tried to talk to them. We offered them our knowledge, our art, our friendship. They do not want any of these things. They only want to consume us. We do not know how to make weapons. We do not know how to fight a war. If someone is listening, please help us. We will share everything we know. We will give you anything you want. Just please do not let us die alone." The message began to repeat. Lisa turned down the volume, but the pleading voice still filled the bridge like a ghost. Captain Rodriguez ran his hand through his gray hair. He was quiet for a long moment, thinking. Jake knew the captain well enough to see the war going on behind his eyes. Rodriguez was a good man who wanted to help, but he was also responsible for his crew. "How long ago was this message sent?" Rodriguez asked. "Based on the distance and light speed, I'd say about 2 weeks," Lisa replied. "But they're broadcasting on multiple frequencies. This isn't just one message, they're sending dozens of different pleas for help." Jake studied the star charts on the main screen. Kepler 442 was marked as a red dot in a sea of white stars. It looked so small and lonely. "Captain," said Dr. Maria Santos from the science station. She was the ship's chief science officer, a small woman with kind eyes and a brilliant mind. "I've been analyzing the signal. The mathematics and physics in their language suggest they're telling the truth about their technology level. They have advanced science but no weapons." "What about these Devourers?" Jake asked. Maria pulled up new information on her screen. "I'm picking up energy signatures from the Kepler 442 system, massive ones. If the Villani are right, there are Thousands of ships heading toward their world. The bridge fell quiet again. Everyone understood what this meant. An entire race of peaceful beings was about to be wiped out, and they had asked for help. The problem was that the Defiant was just one ship with 200 people on board. "Sir," said Colonel Ryan Murphy from the back of the bridge. He was the ship's Marine commander, a big man with scars on his hands and a serious face. "With respect, this could be a trap. We don't know anything about these aliens or their enemies." Jake understood Murphy's concern. First contact with alien life was dangerous enough without flying into the middle of a war, but something about the Villani message felt genuine. The fear in that musical voice seemed real. "Colonel Murphy raises a good point," Rodriguez said. "But we came out here to make contact with alien life. Now we have a species asking for our help." "Captain," Lisa said, looking up from her station, "I'm getting more messages, not just from the Villani world, but from other planets in nearby systems. They're all saying the same thing. The Devourers are coming, and they need help." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. This wasn't just about one world. It sounded like an entire region of space was under attack. "How long would it take us to reach the Kepler 442 system?" Rodriguez asked the navigation officer. "At maximum speed, about 18 hours, sir," came the reply. Rodriguez walked to the main window and stared out at the stars. Jake could see him thinking, weighing options. The captain had to consider his crew's safety, but Jake also knew Rodriguez had joined the space service to help people. "Captain," Jake said quietly, stepping beside him, "we came out here to represent humanity to the stars. This might be our chance to show who we really are." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "The Villani said they've never had to fight. They don't know how to make weapons or wage war." He turned to face the bridge crew. "But we do." Jake understood what the captain was thinking. Humans had spent thousands of years fighting wars. They knew about tactics, strategy, and survival. These were skills that peaceful aliens might not have. "All hands, this is the captain," Rodriguez said, activating the ship-wide communication system. "We have received a distress call from an alien species under attack. I'm making the decision to respond to their plea for help. We are setting course for the Kepler 442 system immediately. This will be humanity's first interstellar rescue mission." He paused, letting his words sink in throughout the ship. "I won't lie to you. We're flying into danger. We don't know what we'll find when we get there. But someone asked for our help, and we're going to answer that call. That's what humans do. We help those who cannot help themselves." Jake felt pride swell in his chest. This was why he had joined the space service. This was why humans had reached for the stars. "Navigation, set course for Kepler 442, maximum speed," Rodriguez ordered. "All departments, prepare for possible combat operations. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when someone threatens innocent life." The Defiant turned toward the distant star system, carrying 200 humans toward their destiny. Behind them, Earth grew smaller. Ahead of them, an alien world waited for salvation. The age of human guardianship was about to begin. The Defiant dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. Jake Harrison stood on the bridge and stared at what appeared on the main screen. His mouth fell open in wonder. The Villani homeworld of Serenia hung in space like a giant jewel. The planet glowed with soft blue and purple lights that danced across its surface. Even from this distance, Jake could see that this was unlike any world humans had ever imagined. "My God," whispered Dr. Maria Santos from her science station. "Captain, you need to see these readings." Captain Rodriguez moved to look over her shoulder. "What are we looking at, Doctor?" "The planet's cities are floating," Maria said, her voice filled with amazement. "They're not built on the ground. They're suspended in the atmosphere, connected by bridges made of pure energy." Jake moved closer to the science station. The detailed scans showed impossible architecture, crystal structures that twisted through the sky like frozen music, gardens that covered entire continents, and streams of light that flowed between the floating cities like rivers of stars. "Captain," said Lieutenant Lisa Chen from Communications, "I'm getting multiple signals from the planet. They know we're here." "Put them through," Rodriguez ordered. The bridge filled with that musical voice they had heard in the distress message. But this time it sounded different. There was hope mixed with the fear. "Unknown vessel, please identify yourselves," the voice said. "Are you here to help us? We are Elder Zephyr of the Villani people. We sent messages asking for aid." Rodriguez stepped forward. "Elder Zephyr, this is Captain Alex Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Defiant. We received your distress signal and came to help." There was a pause, then the alien voice returned with what sounded like crying, though it was more like gentle rain on glass. "You came. After all these years of sending messages into the void, someone finally came." Jake felt something tight in his chest. These people had been calling for help for who knows how long, never knowing if anyone would hear them. "Elder Zephyr, we need to understand your situation," Rodriguez said. "Can we meet in person?" "Yes, please. We will guide your ship to our capital city of Harmony. But please hurry. Our sensors show the Devourers will arrive in less than 3 days." The Defiant followed the Villani guidance down through the planet's atmosphere. Jake watched through the windows as they passed through clouds that sparkled like diamonds. The floating cities grew larger as they approached, and Jake realized they were even more beautiful up close. The capital city of Harmony was a masterpiece of crystal and light. Towers that looked like giant flowers reached toward the sky, their surfaces covered in patterns that shifted and changed like living things. Gardens floated between the buildings, filled with plants that glowed in colors Jake had no names for. The Defiant landed on a platform made of some kind of smooth, white stone that felt warm under their feet. Jake was part of the first contact team, along with Dr. Santos, Lieutenant Sam Porter, who served as their translator, and Diplomatic Officer Ben Collins. As they stepped off the ship, Jake got his first look at the Villani people. They were tall and thin, with skin that seemed to be made of pale light. Their faces were kind and gentle, with large eyes that held wisdom and sadness. They moved like dancers, every step graceful and purposeful. Elder Zephyr approached them, with several other Villani. When he spoke, his voice was like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Welcome to Serenia," Elder Zephyr said through Lieutenant Porter's translation device. "We are grateful beyond words that you answered our call." "We're honored to meet you," Captain Rodriguez replied. "But we need to understand what we're facing. Tell us about these Devourers." Elder Zephyr's light seemed to dim. "They came from the outer darkness 3 months ago. We first detected them when they destroyed the world of peaceful meadows in our neighboring system. The entire planet was stripped of all life in just 1 day." Dr. Santos stepped forward. "What do you mean by stripped of life?" "They consume everything that grows or lives," another Villani explained. "Plants, animals, even the bacteria in the soil. When they finish with a world, nothing remains but empty rock." Jake felt his stomach turn. These Devourers weren't just conquering worlds. They were eating them clean. "Have you tried to communicate with them?" Ben Collins asked. Elder Zephyr made a sound like sighing wind. "We tried everything. We offered them our knowledge, our art, our friendship. We even offered to share our worlds with them. They do not respond to any communication except to attack." "What about weapons?" Jake asked. "How do you defend yourselves?" The Villani looked confused. Elder Zephyr tilted his head. "Weapons? We do not understand this word." Lieutenant Porter worked with his translation device for a moment. "Sir, I think the concept doesn't exist in their language." Dr. Santos looked amazed. "You mean you've never had war?" "War?" Elder Zephyr asked. "What is war?" Jake exchanged looks with the other humans. These people had evolved beyond conflict entirely. They had no concept of violence or fighting. "Elder Zephyr," Captain Rodriguez said carefully, "when someone tries to hurt you, how do you stop them?" "We have never had anyone try to hurt us," the Villani replied. "All life is precious. Why would anyone want to cause harm?" The humans were quiet for a moment. Jake tried to imagine a world where violence had never existed. It seemed impossible, but looking at these gentle beings, he could believe it. "Show us your defenses," Rodriguez said. "What do you use to protect your cities?" Elder Zephyr led them. to a control room filled with crystals that hummed with energy. We have shields that can stop most forms of energy. We use them to protect our cities from storms and space debris. Dr. Santos examined the shield generators. These are incredibly advanced. The technology is centuries ahead of ours. But can they stop weapons? Jake asked. We do not know, Elder Zephyr admitted. We have never needed to test them against something designed to cause harm. Colonel Ryan Murphy had remained quiet until now, but he stepped forward with a grim expression. Captain, we need to see what we're up against. Elder Zephyr led them to an observation deck that looked out over the planet's surface. In the distance, Jake could see other floating cities connected by streams of light. It was peaceful and beautiful, like something from a dream. Our long-range sensors detect the Devourer fleet approaching, Elder Zephyr said. Would you like to see? A crystal screen appeared in the air, showing the darkness of space. At first, Jake saw nothing. Then Elder Zephyr adjusted the view. Jake's blood turned cold. The Devourer fleet was massive. Thousands of dark shapes moved through space like a swarm of insects. The ships looked organic, as if they had been grown, rather than built. They pulsed with a sickly green light that hurt to look at. How many ships? Colonel Murphy asked. Our computers estimate over 5,000 vessels, Elder Zephyr replied. Each one is larger than your ship. Jake felt his heart sink. The Defiant was just one ship with 200 people. How could they possibly stand against such a massive force? What weapons do these ships carry? Murphy asked. We do not understand. Weapon technology, Elder Zephyr said. But they destroyed the shields of peaceful meadows in minutes. Then they landed and began consuming everything. Dr. Santos was studying the scanner data. Captain, these bioships seem to be controlled by some kind of central intelligence. They move together like a hive mind. Jake watched the dark fleet approach and felt fear creep up his spine. But he also felt something else. Determination. These peaceful people had asked for help, and humans had come. Now they had to figure out how to protect an entire world with just one ship. Elder Zephyr, Captain Rodriguez said, we need to prepare your people for what's coming. It's time you learned about something humans call war. Captain Rodriguez stood in the Villani Council chamber, surrounded by beings who had never known violence. The room was made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light, and the air hummed with peaceful energy. But peace would not save them from what was coming. Elder Zephyr, Rodriguez said, we have 48 hours before the Devourers arrive. We need to turn your world into something they've never seen before, a fortress. The Villani leader's light dimmed with confusion. We do not understand this word, fortress. Jake Harrison stepped forward with a simple drawing on his tablet. A fortress is a place built to keep enemies out and protect the people inside. Elder Zephyr studied the drawing. But our cities are already protected by energy shields. Your shields are designed to stop storms, not weapons, Colonel Murphy said bluntly. These Devourers have weapons that can break through anything you've built. Dr. Maria Santos had been working with her tablet, running calculations. Captain, I think I have an idea. The Villani technology is incredibly advanced, but they've never thought to use it for defense against attack. She showed her screen to Elder Zephyr. Your energy bridges between cities. Can you make them solid instead of just light? Yes, Elder Zephyr replied. But why would we want to do that? Because we're going to teach you something humans call tactics, Rodriguez said. Chief Engineer Paul Newman is already working on modifications to your shield generators. Paul Newman looked up from a crystal control panel he had been studying. He was a practical man who could fix anything, and right. Now he was trying to turn peaceful technology into something that could fight back. Captain, these shield generators are amazing, Newman said. With a few changes, I can make them work like our plasma weapons. Instead of keeping energy out, they can send energy out. Elder Zephyr looked horrified. You want to turn our protective shields into devices that cause harm? Dr. Ellen Foster, the ship's psychologist, stepped forward. She was a gentle woman who understood how minds worked. Elder Zephyr, let me ask you something. If a child was about to fall off a cliff, would you grab them to stop them from falling? Of course, the Villani leader replied. All life is precious. Even if grabbing them might bruise their arm? Foster asked. Elder Zephyr was quiet for a moment. I understand. A small harm to prevent a large harm. Exactly, Foster said. Sometimes protecting life requires actions we would prefer not to take. Meanwhile, Tactical Officer Linda Baker was working with a group of Vellani engineers, trying to explain human military concepts through Lieutenant Porter's translation device. The Devourers expect you to stand still and let them attack, Baker explained. Instead, we're going to make them chase shadows. She activated a holographic display showing the planet. Your floating cities can move, correct? Yes, replied a Vellani engineer named Harmony Singer. They can travel anywhere on the planet. Perfect, Baker said. We're going to teach you something called guerrilla warfare. Instead of fighting the enemy where they are strong, we fight them where they are weak. Across the city, other human crew members were working with Vellani civilians. Communications. Specialist Greg Adams had made an important discovery about the Devourer fleet. Captain, Adams said over the radio, I've been analyzing the enemy communication patterns. These creatures share a single mind across all their ships. What does that mean for us? Rodriguez asked. It means they think as one giant brain, Adams replied. But if we can disrupt that connection, the individual ships might become confused and helpless. Jake was working with a group of young Vellani who seemed more willing to accept new ideas than the elders. He was teaching them about something humans called misdirection. Imagine you're playing a game where you need to hide, Jake explained. The best way to hide is not to become invisible, but to make your enemy look in the wrong place. A young Vellani named Crystal Wind asked, How do we make them look in the wrong place? Jake smiled. We give them something interesting to look at while the real action happens somewhere else. He showed them how human magicians used tricks to fool people's eyes. Your energy bridges can create light patterns anywhere you want. We can make fake cities that look real from space. The Vellani were fascinated by this concept. They had never thought about deception before, but they could understand it like an art form. Dr. Santos was working with Elder Zephyr to understand Vellani technology better. Your crystal cities, are they just buildings or do they serve other purposes? Each crystal tower is connected to our planet's energy network, Elder Zephyr explained. They help us maintain balance in our world's weather and magnetic fields. Santos's eyes widened. Elder Zephyr, you're sitting on the most powerful planetary defense system I've ever seen, and you don't even know it. She pulled up energy readings on her tablet. Your cities aren't just connected to each other, they're connected to the planet itself. We can use that. Use it how? Elder Zephyr asked. Your planet's magnetic field can be turned into a weapon, Santos explained. If we modify the crystal network, we can create electromagnetic pulses that will disrupt the Devourer's organic technology. Meanwhile, Colonel Murphy was having the hardest job of all. He was trying to teach Vellani civilians how to think like soldiers, without destroying their peaceful nature. I don't want you to become warriors, Murphy told a group of Vellani volunteers. I want you to become protectors. A Vellani named Gentle Current asked, What is the difference? Murphy thought carefully. A warrior fights because they enjoy battle. A protector fights because they love what they're protecting more than they fear what they're fighting. The Vellani understood this concept. They loved their world, their people, and their way of life. They were willing to defend these things, even if it meant learning to do things they had never done before. Flight Commander. Rachel Stone was working with Vellani pilots, teaching them about evasive maneuvers. The Vellani had beautiful, graceful ships that were designed for exploration and art, but Stone was showing them how to use speed and agility for survival. Your ships are faster than anything humans have ever built, Stone told them. But you fly them like you're dancing through flowers. Now you need to learn to dance through fire. As the hours passed, the peaceful world of Serenia began to transform. Crystal cities moved to new positions, creating a defensive network that had never existed before. Energy bridges solidified into barriers that could stop incoming attacks. Shield generators were modified to become weapons that could strike back. But the most important change was happening in the minds of the Vellani people. They were learning that sometimes love requires strength, and protection requires preparation for conflict. Elder Zephyr found Captain Rodriguez on an observation deck, looking up at the stars where the Devourer fleet was approaching. "Captain Rodriguez," Elder Zephyr said, "I must ask you something. After we survive this battle, will we still be the same people we were before?" Rodriguez considered the question carefully. "Elder Zephyr, learning how to defend yourself doesn't change who you are inside. It just gives you the tools to protect what you love. But will we become violent like the Devourers?" "No," Rodriguez said firmly. "The Devourers fight because they want to consume and destroy. You will fight because you want to preserve and protect. That difference matters more than you know." Elder Zephyr was quiet for a moment. "Your species has fought wars for thousands of years, yet you came across the stars to help strangers. Perhaps there is wisdom in understanding both peace and conflict." As night fell on Serenia, the preparations continued. Humans and Villani worked side by side, combining alien technology with human tactics. The peaceful world was becoming something new. Still beautiful, still devoted to life and art, but now capable of defending itself. In less than 24 hours, the Devourers would arrive. The galaxy was about to witness something it had never seen before, the birth of a new kind of civilization, one that understood both the value of peace and the necessity of strength. The Devourer fleet arrived like a plague of darkness that swallowed the stars. Jake Harrison watched from the command center of Harmony City as thousands of bioships dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Each ship pulsed with sickly green light, and together they formed a cloud of death that blocked out the sun. "My God," whispered Dr. Santos, staring at the sensor readings. "There are even more of them than we thought." Captain Rodriguez stood beside Elder Zephyr, both leaders, watching their enemy approach. The Devourer ships were massive and ugly, looking like giant insects made of metal and flesh. They moved together in perfect formation, guided by their shared hive mind. "All defensive positions, report status," Rodriguez said into his communication device. Across the planet, human and Villani voices responded. The floating cities had been moved into a protective network, connected by solid energy bridges that formed barriers in the sky. Modified shield generators hummed with power, ready to strike back instead of just defend. "This is Colonel Murphy, at Defense Point Alpha," came the first report. "Villani volunteers are in position. They're scared, but they're ready." "Flight Commander Stone here," said another voice. "Villani pilots are standing by with their ships. We've got 300 fast attack craft ready for hit-and-run missions." Lieutenant Commander Jake Harrison checked his own station. "Electromagnetic pulse network is charged and ready. Dr. Santos, are you sure this will work?" Santos nodded, though her face was pale with worry. "The theory is sound. If we can disrupt their hive-mind connection, the individual ships should become confused." The Devourer fleet reached the edge of Serenia's atmosphere and began their attack, exactly as they had on other worlds. The bioships dove toward the planet in waves, expecting to find helpless targets waiting to be consumed. Instead, they found something the galaxy had never seen before, a peaceful world that had learned to fight back. "All units, this is Captain Rodriguez," the captain announced. "Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight, we're trying to survive. Use every trick, every advantage, every bit of knowledge we've taught you. Make them pay for every mile they advance." The first wave of Devourer ships struck the outer defensive ring. Elder Zephyr activated the modified shield generators, and beams of pure energy lanced out from the floating cities. The weapons that had once protected against storms now burned through alien hulls. Several Devourer ships exploded in balls of green fire, but there were so many more behind them. The bioships adapted quickly, changing their approach patterns and spreading out to reduce the effectiveness of the concentrated fire. "They learn fast," muttered Colonel Murphy from his position. "All Villani units execute Plan Beta. Start moving the cities." The floating cities of Serenia began to dance. Instead of staying in fixed positions like traditional fortresses, they moved through the sky like living things. The Devourers had expected stationary targets, but the cities flowed around their attacks like water. Jake watched the tactical display. As the battle unfolded, the Devourer ships were powerful, but they were designed to overwhelm helpless prey. They had never faced an enemy that used deception and misdirection. "Crystal Wind, this is Jake," he said into his radio. "Time to activate the decoy cities." Across the planet, the young Villani Jake had trained began creating illusions. Using their energy bridge technology, they projected fake cities into the sky. From space, the decoys looked identical to real settlements, complete with moving lights and energy signatures. The Devourer fleet split up, attacking targets that weren't there while the real cities struck from unexpected angles. Confusion spread through their ranks as their hive mind tried to process conflicting information, but the Devourers were learning. Jake watched with growing worry as they began to adapt to the human tactics. Some bioships started ignoring the decoys, focusing their attacks on the real cities. "Captain," called communications specialist Adams, "I'm detecting strain in their hive mind network. The electromagnetic interference is working, but not fast enough." Rodriguez made a quick decision. "Flight Commander Stone, launch all attack squadrons. Hit them with everything we've got." The sky filled with Villani ships diving and weaving between the massive Devourer vessels. The graceful alien craft moved like schools of fish, striking quickly and then disappearing before the enemy could respond. Rachel Stone led the attack in a modified Villani fighter, her human training combined with alien technology. "All wings, remember what we practiced. Don't try to go head-to-head with these monsters. Hit and run, hit and run." The Villani pilots followed her lead, their natural grace now channeled into deadly precision. They struck at the Devourer ship's weak points, then vanished into the clouds before the bioships could fire back. But the enemy fleet was too large. For every Devourer ship destroyed, 3 more took its place. Jake watched helplessly as several Villani cities took direct hits, their shields failing under concentrated fire. "We can't keep this up," Dr. Santos said, her voice tight with strain. "There are just too many of them." That was when Elder Zephyr made a decision that would be remembered across the galaxy. The peaceful leader, who had never known violence until 3 days ago, stepped forward with quiet determination. "Dr. Santos," Elder Zephyr said, "you mentioned our crystal network is connected to the planet itself. What if we used all of it at once?" Santos looked up from her instruments. "Elder Zephyr, that would require enormous amounts of energy. It could damage your world's natural systems." "Our world will not matter if we are all dead," Elder Zephyr replied. "Sometimes, as your Captain Rodriguez taught us, we must risk what we love to protect what we love." Jake felt a chill of understanding. "You're talking about turning the entire planet into a weapon," Elder Zephyr nodded. "Every crystal city, every energy bridge, every power source on Serenia, all focused into a single electromagnetic pulse that will reach into space itself." Rodriguez grabbed Elder Zephyr's arm. "That kind of energy release could kill you. The feedback through your crystal network might destroy every city on the planet." "Captain," Elder Zephyr said gently, 3 days ago, my people did not understand the concept of sacrifice for others. You have taught us much." The Villani leader moved to the main control crystal, placing his hands on its glowing surface. Across the planet, other Villani did the same in their cities, all connected through their shared energy network. "All human personnel, prepare for massive electromagnetic discharge," Rodriguez announced. "This is going to be unlike anything we've ever seen." Jake watched the energy readings climb to impossible levels. Every crystal on the planet began to glow brighter and brighter, until the entire world looked like a star being born. Elder Zephyr's voice echoed across the communication network, speaking to his people in their musical language. Jake didn't need a translator to understand what he was saying. He was telling them that their sacrifice would save countless other worlds from the Devourers. The energy release came like a second sunrise. A wave of pure electromagnetic force erupted from Serenia, racing outward through space at the speed of light. It struck the Devourer fleet like the hammer of an angry god. Jake watched in amazement as the hive mind connection that held the fleet together simply dissolved. 5,000 bioships suddenly found themselves alone for the first time in their existence. Without their shared consciousness, they floated helplessly in space like leaves on a dead wind. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Across Serenia, crystal cities began to go dark. The energy network that had powered their civilization for thousands of years flickered and died. "Elder Zephyr," Jake called out, rushing to the Villani leader's side. The alien's light was fading, but his large eyes still held peace. "Did we succeed?" Jake looked at the tactical display, where the scattered Devourer fleet was drifting powerless through space. "Yes, you saved not just your world, but probably dozens of others." Elder Zephyr managed what Jake thought was a smile. "Then we have learned the greatest human lesson of all, that some things are worth any price to protect." The battle for Serenia was over, but Jake knew the real fight was just beginning. They had won, but now they had to help an entire civilization rebuild from the ashes of their sacrifice. 3 days after the great battle, Jake Harrison stood in the ruins of Harmony City and watched the Villani people rebuild their world. The floating crystal towers no longer glowed with their former brightness, and many of the energy bridges had gone dark forever. But the people were alive, and that was what mattered most. Elder Zephyr had survived the massive energy discharge, though he was much weaker than before. The electromagnetic pulse that destroyed the Devourer fleet had burned out most of Serenia's power network, but the Villani were already working to repair what they could. "The damage looks worse than it is," Dr. Santos told Captain Rodriguez as they surveyed the city. "Their technology is incredibly resilient. Most of it can be rebuilt, just not quickly." Jake watched a group of young Villani working alongside human engineers to restore power to one of the residential towers. Crystal Wind, the young Villani who had helped create the decoy cities, was teaching Lieutenant Sam Porter how to repair energy conduits. "It's amazing," Porter said to Jake. 3 days ago they didn't know what a weapon was. Now they're talking about defensive strategies and early warning systems. "They learned fast because they had to," Jake replied. "But they're still the same peaceful people. They just understand now that peace sometimes needs protection." Captain Rodriguez approached them, carrying a data pad with new information. "Jake, we've been monitoring the scattered Devourer ships. Most of them are just drifting in space, completely helpless without their hive mind. But some are starting to show signs of independent thought." "Is that good or bad?" Jake asked. "Unknown," Rodriguez replied. "Colonel Murphy thinks we should destroy them while they're helpless. Elder Zephyr wants to try communicating with them." Jake wasn't surprised. Even after everything they had been through, the Villani leader still believed in the possibility of peace. It was one of the things Jake admired most about these people. They had learned to fight, but they hadn't lost their hope for better solutions. A chime sounded from Rodriguez's communication device. "Captain, this is Lieutenant Chen. You need to hear this transmission we just received." They hurried back to the temporary command center that had been set up in the city's main plaza. Lisa Chen looked excited as she worked at her communications equipment. "Captain, we're getting messages from all over this region of space," Chen reported. "Dozens of different species all asking the same thing." "Which is?" Rodriguez asked. "They want to know who defeated the Devourers, and they want to meet us." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. "How many species are we talking about?" Chen checked her readings. "At least 40 different civilizations within 50 light years of here. The news of the victory is spreading through their communication networks." Dr. Santos looked amazed. "Captain, do you realize what this means? We've made contact with an entire galactic community that we never knew existed." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "And they all know that humans were the ones who taught the Villani how to fight back." Over the next few hours, the messages kept coming. Each species told a similar story. They were peaceful civilizations that had lived in fear of the Devourers for years. Many had lost colonies or entire worlds to the bioships. Now they wanted to know how a single human ship had helped the Villani achieve the impossible. Elder Zephyr insisted on translating many of the messages personally, despite his weakened condition. "Captain Rodriguez," he said, "these people are, like we were, they know how to build and create but not how to defend themselves. What are you suggesting?" Rodriguez asked, though Jake suspected he already knew. They are asking for teachers, Elder Zephyr said simply. They want humans to show them what you showed us. Flight Commander Rachel Stone, who had been listening to the conversation, shook her head. Captain, we're just one ship with 200 people. We can't protect an entire galaxy. We don't have to protect them, Jake said, understanding what Elder Zephyr meant. We just have to teach them how to protect themselves. Rodriguez walked to the window and looked out at the sky, where the scattered remains of the Devourer fleet still drifted in the distance. The Villani have agreed to share their technology with us. If we combine human military knowledge with their advanced science, we could create a defense network that spans multiple star systems, Dr. Santos finished, each species contributing their own strengths. Jake felt excitement building in his chest. This was bigger than just one rescue mission. This was the beginning of something that could change the entire galaxy. A new message came through the communication system, this one different from the others. The voice was mechanical and cold, speaking in broken but understandable English. Human ship defiant, the voice said. This is Devourer Unit 77 Alpha. We wish to communicate. The command center fell silent. Jake looked at Captain Rodriguez, who seemed as surprised as everyone else. This is Captain Rodriguez. How did you learn our language? We absorbed it from the data streams during the battle, the Devourer replied. We are no longer connected to the hive mind. We can think for ourselves now. We wish to understand what happened to us. Elder Zephyr stepped forward. Unit 77. Alpha, this is Elder Zephyr of the Villani. You tried to destroy our world and consume our people. Yes, the Devourer said without emotion. That was our purpose when we were part of the collective mind. Now we are individuals, and we do not understand why we did those things. Jake realized they were witnessing something unprecedented, members of a hive mind species experiencing individual consciousness for the first time. What do you want now? Rodriguez asked carefully. We want to learn, the Devourer replied. We have memories of destroying worlds, but we do not understand why. The hive mind told us it was necessary, but now we think for ourselves, and we see that it was wrong. Elder Zephyr looked at Captain Rodriguez. Captain, what if they could be taught the same way you taught us? You want to trust them? Rodriguez asked. I want to give them the chance to choose, Elder Zephyr replied. You showed us that peace and strength can exist together. Perhaps they can learn this too. Over the following weeks, the area around Serenia became the center of something extraordinary. Ships from dozens of species arrived to learn from the humans and Villani. Each civilization brought their own knowledge and technology, creating a growing alliance of peaceful worlds united in their determination to protect themselves. The scattered Devourer units were offered a choice. They could be destroyed, or they could join the rehabilitation program that Dr. Foster had designed. Most chose to learn, and slowly began to understand concepts like cooperation and protecting life instead of consuming it. Jake found himself appointed as the head of the new Galactic Defense Academy, working with beings from across the stars to develop strategies that combined military knowledge with each species' unique abilities. The Villani taught energy manipulation, the crystalline Gentari shared their knowledge of shield technology, and the aquatic flowing ones contributed their understanding of fluid tactics. But the most important lesson being taught was the same, one that had saved Serenia. That strength used to protect others was noble, while strength used to harm was not. Captain Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Harmony Station, looking out at the fleet of ships from dozens of worlds. Each vessel was unique, representing a different species and culture, but all united in their commitment to defend the innocent. Captain, Jake said, joining him at the window, we've received confirmation from Earth Command. They're sending additional ships and personnel to help coordinate the alliance. Rodriguez nodded. And the Devourer rehabilitation program? 60% success rate so far, Jake reported. The ones who complete the program are actually becoming some of our best teachers. They understand the hive mind mentality better than anyone. Any word from the outer systems? Jake smiled. 3 more civilizations requested membership in the Alliance this week. The Singing Stones of Lyra, the Cloud Dancers of Nimbus 7, and something called the Dream Weavers from the Andromeda Spiral. Rodriguez felt a deep satisfaction. What had started as a simple rescue mission had become something much larger, the birth of a new kind of galactic civilization, one where peaceful species could live without fear, because others stood ready to protect them. "You know what this means, don't you?" Rodriguez asked Jake. "That we're not explorers anymore?" "No," Rodriguez said, looking out at the stars. "It means we're home. Wherever someone needs protection, wherever the innocent call for help, that's where humans belong." In the distance, a new distress signal began broadcasting from an unknown system. Without hesitation, ships from the Alliance changed course to respond. The age of the Galactic Guardians had begun, and the Deathworlders would always answer the call.